You are listening to the voice of self-discovery. Learn to discover a better you every day. Have you heard the phrase, once we accept our limits, we go beyond them? In this episode, I aim for us to climb a step higher in our self-awareness journey by reflecting on some questions to discover our weaknesses, own and use them to our advantage. In case you wondered where you are at and who you're listening to, my name is Priscilla Appiah, the voice of self-discovery, and I serve you self-discovery revelations every Friday at 9 p.m. A bit of me before I lead you to do some reflections. So I've always thought of myself as a strong girl. Strong in the sense I sincerely believe I can rise above any challenge or circumstance life brings my way. So I go by the mantra, whatever faces me, I can face it. There have been times in my life where I felt defeat, I felt cheated, I felt injustice, and sometimes cried myself to sleep. There have been times where I asked myself, why me in certain circumstances? And I found me reassuring myself through the tears that despite it all, I was born ready for anything and everything. I have felt self-pity and motivation side by side in different voices. I have risen through some very difficult circumstances to be where I am today. And by God's grace, I sincerely believe whatever faces me, I can face it. So I've carried myself as a strong girl for a long time, that sometimes I even thought accepting help defied my label of being strong. But what exactly is the problem here? Is there something wrong with being strong? Absolutely not. There's nothing wrong with being strong, but there's everything wrong with presenting a half or single story. I was literally shielding one half and projecting another in defense of all that went wrong and can't possibly go wrong. What I failed to do was I failed to admit that there was a part of me that gets tired, a part that longed to be understood, a part that wished others could see I was tired of fighting for myself, a part that wants to rest but can't, a part that feels afraid sometimes, a part that feels pain in all of its dimensions and can get broken and shattered by it. I refuse to accept this part just because I didn't want anything to be an obstacle to me ever again. So this was me for a very long time. But thank God for the Bible. As I got to know myself through the Word of God, as I call it, I began to accept my frailties, knowing I don't have to be strong all by myself. I didn't have to carry all the burden alone. It was fine to confess that I am afraid, sometimes that I am tired, that I am hurt, that I am affected by other people's actions and inactions. I believe this stage of self-awareness and self-discovery unveiled a more holistic me that accepted myself for both my vulnerabilities and my strengths. And it was beautiful to even know that my vulnerabilities are the very things that revealed my strengths. You know, to feel afraid to the core of one's soul and still take a step forward in the same direction of your fear. Those were some of the attributes that described me then and even now. But what I did differently was I accepted my humanness in all of its facets? Is it that I am no longer strong? Of course, I am still a strong girl, but the difference is now I am comfortable to talk about my fears as much as my tenacity. I talk about my pain as much as my proud achievements. I talk about the torturing circumstances alongside the trophies, both as important parts of who I am, and that is the difference. On that premise, my question to you is, which parts of you are you shielding from yourself and others because you think they are ugly or not worth public sight or hearing? Which versions of yourself have you created just to survive? Don't you think you will live a more liberating and fulfilling life if you accept all facets of yourself and embrace the different pieces of your story that altogether makes you a unique, beautiful piece? Now, if your answer is yes, and if you are ready to discover or learn more about your weaknesses, I'd like for you to reflect and respond to the questions I'm about to ask you. So, how do you mostly spend your time? Is it mostly with people, mostly alone, or a balance of both? How do you introduce yourself to people? Do you talk about your work, your hobby, or your friends? What do you pay attention to the most? Is it people, places, or things? Which of these three things do you believe in most? Love, truth, or glory? What colors do you like to wear? Neutral colors, jewel tones, or bright colors? What scares you the most among these three? Is it being alone, public speaking, or running out of money? Which of these three things brings you courage? Dreaming big, being with family, or hearing stories? How do you feel about politics? Would you say you dislike talking about conflict? You don't pay attention to politics? Or you have a lot of opinions? Which of these three animals would you prefer? A giraffe, a lion, or a zebra? Which of these three places would you hate to live? In a clean but small house, in a beautiful but lonely yacht, in a large but messy mansion? Which of these three weather conditions do you enjoy most or would enjoy most? Sunny and warm, cool and pleasant, or snowy and lovely? How do you answer people when you have to respond no to something? Do you simply say no? Or do you talk about something else until they forget? Or do you simply try to avoid such questions or demands? Which of these three subjects do you enjoy studying the most? Or would you enjoy studying the most? Psychology, art, or mathematics? If you were a god, which of these three would you be a god of? God of love, God of wisdom, or God of health? What do your friends find irritating about you? Which of these three do you find most abhorrent? Is it pride? Is it lust? Or is it envy? What superpower would you like to have amongst these three? Invisibility, mind control, or strength? Lastly, what do you think is your greatest weakness? First, I have 2 responses for you. You can listen over and over again and reflect on the questions. At the end of it all, I have 2 responses for you. What you think is your weakness is your weakness. Secondly, embedded in the questions you felt uncomfortable answering is also a weakness. And one more thing, those questions you had more than one answer to or didn't have an answer to reveals a self-awareness knowledge gap. This has been Self-Discovery Revelations with me, Priscilla Appiah. We will continue next week. Let this be your go-to channel for personal development. Subscribe and click the notification bell. Let's learn and grow together. You matter to me. Voice of Self-Discovery. Do you like a pro?